It seems like as of recently, every company in existence is in some sort of contest to see who can be the most supportive of LGBT people. Recently, I addressed IKEA's new line of these hideous pieces of furniture meant to represent different identities under the whole LGBT umbrella. In this video, we'll be looking at another example that's a bit more controversial. These examples come from Nickelodeon. For those of you who aren't aware, recently Nickelodeon teamed up with a drag queen named Nina West to produce some content that has very pro-LGBT messages. A lot of this content has been considered very controversial, especially in right-wing and conservative circles. So in this video, we'll be taking a look at Nina's content to try and figure out what exactly the controversy is all about. Let's get into it. So before we get into the main topic of the video, let's briefly discuss some contextual information. The person producing this content is a drag queen named Andrew Levitt, who's more commonly known by his stage name Nina West. For the sake of avoiding confusion in this video, I'm just going to refer to this person as Nina West, since that's the name they're more commonly known by. So for those of you who aren't aware of what a drag queen is a man who dresses as a woman for performance or entertainment purposes. Drag queens are different from transgender people in that they cross-dress for performance reasons as opposed to experiencing gender dysphoria. So a trans person dresses like a woman because they want to be a woman, whereas a drag queen dresses like a woman for entertainment because they think it's fun. Now, drag queens can be transgender, but they don't necessarily have to be. Now, for the sake of preparing for this video, I did do some research on this person. Nina has a bit of a long career, not just in drag, but also in other forms of entertainment. This person was on RuPaul's Drag Race. She's acted in various TV shows and movies. She also has a bit of a career in music.
A is for absolutely, B is for busted, C is for clock that mug, and D is for divine.
So in addition to her career in entertainment, Nina has also more or less devoted her entire life to supporting the interests of LGBT people. Nina herself is gay. Not all drag queens are gay, but there does seem to be quite a strong connection between drag culture and the whole LGBT community. And Nina sort of had personal experiences growing up dealing with discrimination for being gay, which is sort of what inspired her to devote her life to this cause.
This is why I'm involved in gay rights issues, because I don't want anyone to ever feel that way, that I thought I was suicidal or that I wasn't good enough or that I didn't belong. That's why I do what I do. Because I never want anyone to feel that way.
Yeah.
Because it is awful. You know, you don't want to ever feel like you don't matter.
Now, since this person not only has a prominent career in music and entertainment, but is also very passionate about LGBT issues, it's clear why Nickelodeon will want to partner up with this person in order to create their pro-LGBT messages. Which brings us to the topic of today's video. Today we'll be looking at two clips from Nickelodeon featuring our drag queen Nina West singing about LGBT issues. Now, before we continue, just a quick disclaimer. You may have picked up on this by this point, but I'm using female pronouns to address Nina West. I figured that would be least confusing, given that Nina is presenting as female in these videos. I'm not entirely sure what pronouns Nina prefers, but in this video I'll be using she, her, just for the sake of convenience to avoid confusion. Anyways, the first clip we'll be looking at is a sort of bumper which appeared on Nickelodeon during Pride Month.
It's Pride, everybody! Every color on the Pride flag is a symbol in the sky.
So one thing that always impressed me about drag queens is how well they're able to pull off a feminine voice in spite of being biologically male. Not only can Nina pull off a convincing feminine voice, but she can also sing pretty well in it too. I have to admit that is pretty impressive. That must have taken like a lot of practice. You can make fun of drag queens all you want, but they do put a lot of effort into what they do.
Pride! And I'm proud to be me every time that I see that Pride flag waving high.
So I've mentioned this in a previous video, but as of recently, the whole LGBT community decided that the whole pride flag needed to be upgraded. A simple rainbow pride flag wasn't going to cut it. It needed to be updated to be more inclusive, I guess. So this is the new pride flag. As you can see, it does retain the rainbow design of the original, but now it has some sort of weird protrusion coming in from the left. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not particularly a fan of it. These two different design elements don't combine like at all. You have one design element consisting of a rainbow of saturated colors, and then this weird sort of design element protruding in, which combines dark colors and very faded colors. These two design elements are clashing more so than coming together. It almost looks like these are two different flags trying to compete for the same space, more so than a single coherent flag. The TLDR of it is that it's pretty ugly. You know the American flag, which represents our freedom and liberty, and all the men and women in our military who work hard to keep us safe? The left will kneel in front of it, disrespect it, say it's racist, but they'll salute and respect this ugly thing.
Red means life because living is a gift. Orange means healing, and we have to persist in working to heal the world and healing ourselves. Yellow means sunlight cause you gotta shine bright. Green means nature, and we gotta fight to keep our earth a thriving home for life.
So this is obviously a reference to climate change. You're going to see a lot of this throughout the video. It's a very common strategy with left-wing propaganda. They'll say that they're promoting one left-wing talking point, but then sort of Trojan horse in other left-wing talking points.
Doesn't it just fill you with pride, showing who you are on the inside? Wave that pride flag up high, be true to you. Happy Pride, everyone! Yeah! Blue means harmony, working together. Purple means spirit, believing you have the power and strength within yourself to do whatever you dream.
I've mentioned this in that video where I tackle the Gillette toxic masculinity ad. There's nothing necessarily wrong with encouraging confidence in kids. In many cases, it's a good thing to encourage kids to work hard to accomplish their dreams. The problem is that sometimes people can have too much confidence, get an overinflated ego, and start believing they can do things they actually can't, which tends to cause a lot of problems.
Baby blue, pink and white represent transgender people because every letter in LGBTQ plus is equal.
So if every letter in LGBT is equal, why is it that transgender people specifically get representation in the pride flag? If you think about it, every other color represents some abstract concept like love or hope or something like that. But transgender people not only get a special color to represent them on the flag, they get multiple colors.
And black and brown represent the queer and trans people of color.
I think that might be one of the reasons the new pride flag comes across as ugly. You have all these bright colors everywhere, and then a black and brown stripe down the middle. Now, contrasting colors aren't necessarily a bad thing. As a matter of fact, a lot of artists use contrasting colors to create focal points. But focal points aren't usually the kind of thing you want in a flag. Here it just kind of seems awkward and out of place. The black and brown stripes almost seem foreign to the flag, like someone got mud on the flag or something.
Doesn't it just fill you with pride, showing who you are on the inside? Wave that pride flag up high, be true to you. Show your pride, wave those flags, everybody. Here we go. Red light, orange, healing, yellow is sunlight, green, nature, blue, harmony, purple is spirit. Baby blue, pink, white represent transgender people, and black and brown represent the queer and trans people of color.
So why exactly do we need to specify the queer and trans people of color? Why not just have one pride flag that represents all LGBT people of all races? What, was there something about the original pride flag that excluded minorities? Or signaled that this is only for gay white people? One of the problems with being overly inclusive like this is that it creates divisiveness. Here's what I mean by that. Let's take a look back at the American flag. One of the things a flag is supposed to do is create a sense of unity. A flag is supposed to bring people together. The American flag represents America and Americans. Anyone who lives in this country or is a citizen of this country can point to this flag and say, that represents me. That represents the freedom and the ideals that our country is based on. It doesn't need a stripe to represent black people or Asian people or Hispanic people or gay people or autistic people. It just represents Americans. It represents the values that we all hold together as a country, and that's why it's very powerful at unifying. By trying to specify LGBT people of color, you sort of have the opposite effect. You're almost trying to imply that gay people of color are more important than all the other gay people. A white gay person might look at this flag and wonder whether or not it's really really for them. A flag like this creates divisiveness more than it does unify, because it creates the subtle implication that white and black LGBT people are different factions, as opposed to a single, coherent, unified LGBT community.
We're all in this together. So wave that pride flag way up high. Go big, be kind, be you. Doesn't it just fill you with pride? Showing who you are on the inside. Never have to hide yourself away. There's a place for you. Doesn't it just fill you with pride? Loving who you are on the inside. Wave that pride flag up high. Be true to you. Be true to you.
So what are my final thoughts on this first video? Well, to tell you the truth, it actually wasn't that bad. There's a lot of positive messages about being confident in yourself, which is a good message for LGBT kids, or even straight kids for that matter. Because, you know, even straight kids or kids that fall outside the whole LGBT umbrella might still experience identity issues in one form or another. So I think these are generally just positive messages for kids. On top of that, Nina does have a pretty good singing voice, and she very clearly puts a lot of passion and enthusiasm into the song. It's a pretty good song. Heck, a lot of my criticisms were against the new pride flag more so than the song itself, so take that for what it's worth.
But wait! There's more!
You see, ladies and gentlemen, that was merely the appetizer. Now onto the main course. You see, there are 2 videos total that Nina West did for Nickelodeon. I saved this one for last because it's the more controversial of the 2. Ever since it first aired, conservative media has been talking about it non-stop. What is this super controversial video? Well, as it turns out, Nina West didn't just produce a video for Nickelodeon as a network. She also made a video for one of its shows specifically. And you'll never guess which one. Of all the shows on Nickelodeon's lineup, just take a wild guess which one you think it is that they decided is most fitting to tackle LGBT issues. It's Blue's Clues. Yes, fucking Blue's Clues is going to teach us about the wonders of various sexual orientations. Because when I think of LGBT issues and intersectionality, what immediately comes to mind is a toddler show with anthropomorphic salt and pepper shakers. Was anyone ever watching Blue's Clues thinking in the back of their head, gee, you know what would really make this show a lot better? Discussions of sexual orientation. This is actually from Blue's Clues and You, which is the most recent spin-off of Blue's Clues. Yeah, I don't know if Blue's Clues is going to end up being the next Scooby-Doo or Ben 10. There's just going to be infinite reboots of it till the end of time. But in this most recent reboot, they brought Blue's Clues into the modern age. They made it all hip and fresh for kids. For example, instead of getting letters from their letterbox, they now get emails. And the handy-dandy notebook has been replaced with the handy-dandy smartphone.
How do you do, fellow kids?
So, since we're updating Blue's Clues for the modern era, it's only fitting that they tackle issues being faced by contemporary society. So why not cover some woke social justice topics? Why not? Which brings us to this video. You see, Nina West in her animated form is going to sing to us about all the different gender identities and sexual identities and whatnot, so let's get into it.
Hey, Blue, look at all these families.
Hi, families.
It's time for a pride parade.
Oh yeah, this is happening. A drag queen is hosting a pride parade on Blue's Clues. I never imagined myself using the terms pride parade, drag queen, and Blue's Clues all in the same sentence, but here we are. I thought I saw it all when Arthur was addressing racism in spite of taking place in a world where race doesn't exist, so I guess nothing would really shock me at this point. Another thing I want to quickly address is that they're having a pride parade on a show meant for little kids. Now obviously, since this is a little kids show, it's going to be a very tame version of a pride parade, because anyone who's ever been to a pride parade in real life will know they're not exactly kid friendly. It's not uncommon to see people either naked, in fetish rubber gear, or holding dildos. That's why it's always made me a little bit nervous when I hear about these woke parents talking about bringing their kids to pride parades. Now, if you look carefully on the right side of the screen, you'll see that there's actually a small fist embedded into her microphone. A lot of people are saying that this represents BLM or communism or something like that. Probably not. A raised fist generally just means solidarity. It means people coming together to overcome challenges. The raised fist has had different meanings throughout history. People are probably just overthinking this.
Families marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. Families marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah.
Hold it! What the hell is that shit?
This family has two mommies. They love each other so proudly, and they all go marching in the big parade.
Oh god, this is so cringe. Everything about this is cringe. The music is cringe. The random disarray of gaudy colors they threw all over everything. Like, are you guys trying to give people seizures or something? It looks like a unicorn shat all over the place. The fact that they're using the new black gay people are more important pride flag, and the fact that this is all being put on a show meant for 3 and 4-year-olds. Like, this is all just cringe. I don't think I've ever cringed harder in my life.
Families marching 2 by 2, hurrah, hurrah.
Okay, that is the BLM fist. There is no ambiguity here at all. That is the BLM fist. Remember how earlier in the video I talked about how they Trojan horse in other left-wing beliefs? This is a perfect example of that. Like, hey kids, you should support gay people. Oh, by the way, BLM. I've already mentioned some of the problems with specifying LGBT people of color earlier in the video. It creates a sort of division within the LGBT community, implying that they're somehow more important than white LGBT people. But there's another issue with it, specifically here regarding their use of the BLM fist. And that is basically what they're trying to do is conflate two separate issues. You see, the issues being faced by LGBT people and the issues being faced by people of color are fundamentally different. Sure, maybe LGBT people of color face both sets of issues, but they are still separate issues. By trying to shoehorn these two sets of issues together like this, you're kind of doing both of them a disservice. You're implying that these issues are either the same or similar enough that they can be addressed in the same way. And it would be one thing if they were just endorsing people of color in general, but they're specifically endorsing BLM. Now, I don't think I really need to explain why it's problematic that a show for 3 and 4-year-olds shouldn't be endorsing an organization that is known for rioting and looting. On top of that, most gay people don't identify with BLM. Heck, a lot of black people don't even identify with BLM. If I was a gay person watching this, I'd actually be somewhat insulted that you're trying to imply that my interests have anything to do with an organization that's responsible for destroying entire neighborhoods. It almost seems like they're not being genuine in their support of gay people. Like they're just using gay people as a vehicle to push BLM. Bottom line, there's a multitude of reasons why the BLM fist doesn't belong here.
Families marching 2 by 2, hurrah, hurrah. This family has 2 daddies. They love each other so proudly.
I'm a big gay bear, and I'm gonna shoot people on the internet to make me angry.
And they all go marching in the big parade. Come on, friends! Families marching 3 by 3, hurrah, hurrah.
Oh god, dolphins. I'm getting PTSD flashbacks to this one furry chat I used to be in. This one dude who had a dolphin persona was an uber far left liberal. Like I just mentioned Ben Shapiro when the guy was losing his shit.
Families marching 3 by 3, hurrah, hurrah.
So you may have noticed that that one dolphin there was in a wheelchair. You see, when the left wants to be diverse and inclusive, they go all the way with it. We don't just have gay dolphins. We have crippled BLM gay dolphins. You guys aren't being diverse and inclusive enough. You know what? On the next float, I want to see a Muslim camel wearing a turban and holding a Quran. And on the float after that, I want to see a mentally retarded raccoon with like severe Down syndrome or something, so have it like drooling and shoving crayons up its nose. Come on, fellas, you want to be woke and inclusive? Let's go all the way.
These babas are non-binary. They love each other so proudly, and they all go marching in the big parade.
So keep in mind that the target audience for Blue's Clues is like 4 and 5-year-olds. Chances are they're not going to know what the fuck non-binary means. Heck, I'm 24 and I don't even know what it means. I had to look it up. Non-binary is basically a term used to describe anyone who doesn't necessarily fall into the categories of male or female. Which is a thing. Some people are born intersex, which means they have both sets of genitals. Also, some people have what's called Klinefelter syndrome, which means that they have a set of chromosomes other than XX or XY. However, conditions like this are rare, and people who have these conditions will still typically lean one way or the other. But more importantly, why do 4-year-olds need to know about this?
Families marching 4 by 4, hurrah, hurrah. Families marching 4 by 4, hurrah, hurrah. Trans members of this family all love each other so proudly.
There's a nice little attention to detail here in this one. Look closely at the beaver on the right, the one wearing the baseball cap and the 3 bracelets. If you look carefully at it, you may notice that it has top surgery scars, implying that this beaver went through an FTM transition. That's actually kind of a clever attention to detail. I give him credit for that.
And they all go marching in the big parade.
So this part of the video in particular was considered controversial by a lot of conservatives, and that's because it introduces kids to the concept of transgenderism. Now, the reason this is considered controversial is because it may cause kids to feel confused, it may cause them to feel like they were born into the wrong body, and especially kids experiencing gender dysphoria may decide they want to transition. Now, the reason this is a problem is because transitioning is a permanent life-altering process. Kids don't necessarily have the reasoning faculties to make such a decision, and many people who jump the gun and transition too early often end up regretting it later in life. Here's my opinion on the issue. Kids who are experiencing gender dysphoria definitely should get in touch with a therapist or a counselor who can help them deal with their issue that they're going through. And I'm also generally not against giving kids experiencing gender dysphoria puberty blockers, since they're generally safe to use on kids and are reversible. Then later in life, once the kid has become an adult and they're competent to make decisions for themselves, at that point they could move forward with transitioning if they feel that that's what's ultimately necessary.
Come join the fun!
Some people on the extreme far right have taken them saying come join the fun as them trying to convert kids to homosexuality. Like, hey kids, being gay is fun. Look how fun this is. Come join the fun. I don't think that they're trying to imply that being gay is fun. When they say come join the fun, I think what they mean is come join the fun of being in a pride parade. Cause, you know, even straight people can enjoy pride parades.
Families marching 5 by 5, hurrah, hurrah. Families marching 5 by 5, hurrah, hurrah.
Uh-oh, gay frogs. Alex Jones triggered.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. Do you understand that? Turn the friggin' frogs gay. Serious crap.
Some people choose their family. They love each other so proudly.
This actually isn't a bad message. Yeah, some people choose their family. So if your family isn't being accepting of you because you're gay or whatever, you can leave them and be part of another family. Heck, this is even true for straight people. I mean, straight people choose their family when they decide who to marry.
And they all go marching in the big parade. Families marching 6 by 6, hurrah, hurrah. Families marching 6 by 6, hurrah, hurrah.
Okay, we'll admit it's actually kind of cool how they got a shark there with that water helmet on. It kind of reminds me of that one show that used to be on Cartoon Network, My Gym Partner's a Monkey. That was one of my favorite shows growing up as a kid.
Ace, Spy, and Pan grown-ups, you see.
So, for whatever reason, they decide to lump together Ace, Spy, and Pan. It's kind of weird, you know, because lesbians got their own float, gays got their own float, trans people got their own float, non-binary got their own float. So it's kind of strange for them to lump these three groups together like this. Now, the reason this might potentially be an issue is because, remember, Blue's Clues is for little kids. So while we as adults might understand what Ace, Spy, and Pan means, the kids watching this most likely don't. Which is why it would probably be better for them to just separately explain what these identities mean as opposed to just lumping them together. But real quick, I'll just provide a brief explanation of each of these just in case you're not familiar. Ace is short for asexual. That means they're not sexually attracted to anyone. Bi is short for bisexual, which means you're attracted to both genders. And then Pan is short for pansexual, which means that you're attracted to all the genders. Now, I've mentioned this in previous videos, but pansexuality is sort of premised on the idea that there's more than two genders. Because if you are attracted to all genders and there's only two genders, there's essentially no reason to differentiate yourself from being bisexual. I'm not against introducing kids to the LGBT community, but I don't think we should be introducing to kids the idea that there's more than two genders, because not only is that confusing, it's also factually inaccurate.
We can love each other so proudly.
There's a problem here specifically when they mention ace people can love each other so proudly. You see, ace people don't love anybody. They don't love. That's what makes them ace. As a matter of fact, a lot of ace people are actually sex repulsed, so they definitely don't love.
And they all go marching in the big parade. Oh yeah! Families marching 7 by 7, hurrah, hurrah. Families marching 7 by 7.
Okay, we'll give credit where credit's due. They are pretty creative with these animal designs. Like, here we have a gay cowboy cat. Alright, I can dig. The sound editing isn't bad either. You may have noticed that whenever they introduce an animal on screen, they use a little noise that goes with it. Like they have a meow sound with a cat or a croak sound with the frogs. And it's kind of faint, you can just barely hear it, but when the rabbits are carrying the pride flags, you can actually hear they edited in a bouncing noise. Like, this is cringe as fuck, but in certain ways there is impressive attention to detail.
Hurrah, hurrah. All families are made differently. They love each other so proudly. And they all go marching in the big parade.
Okay, I suppose this isn't a bad message either. As a society, we've historically become accustomed to the heterosexual nuclear family, but the truth is that families come in many different forms. And just because a family is different from what's traditionally considered the norm, doesn't mean that they can't love each other just the same as anyone else.
Families marching 8x8, hurrah, hurrah. Families marching 8x8, hurrah, hurrah. This house is a family of kings and queens. They love each other so proudly, and they all go marching in the big parade. Let's celebrate!
So I'm assuming this is a reference to drag culture. I mentioned this at the beginning of the video. Drag is a term that refers to performance cross-dressing. So a drag queen is a male who cross-dresses as a female, and a drag king is the inverse.
Families marching 9x9, hurrah, hurrah. Families marching 9x9, hurrah, hurrah. Allies to the queer community can love their queer friends so proudly, and they all go marching in the big parade.
Okay, this is another good message. You don't necessarily have to be gay to be part of the LGBT community. There are plenty of straight people out there who are involved with the LGBT community. They attend pride events, they support their interests, they speak out in favor of their rights. And I can tell you this from personal experience that gay people are actually really accepting. I remember the first time I went to a gay bar. I wasn't sure if I'd fit in with everyone because I'm straight, but the guys there were awesome. They were an absolute pleasure to talk to. But yeah, the gay community is just so accepting that even straight people can get involved as allies.
Families marching 10x10, hurrah, hurrah. Families marching 10x10, hurrah, hurrah. Love is love, you see, and everyone should love proudly, and we'll all go marching in the big parade.
Okay, that I do definitely agree with. Yes, love is love. If it's between a man and a woman, if it's between two men, two women, as long as it's between two consenting adults, who gives a shit? Which actually reminds me of a bit of an interesting fact. So anyone who watches my channel will know that I'm politically libertarian. And although Democrats claim that they're the biggest supporters of LGBT rights, historically it's actually been libertarians. Because libertarians have the whole belief that, whatever two consenting adults do is their business. It makes sense that historically they'd be the biggest proponents of just letting gay people do whatever they want.
Wow! Thanks, Blue! Happy Pride Month!
So what are my final thoughts on this second clip? Well, to be absolutely fair, there are some good things about it. There were some creative visuals, some creative character designs going on. We have cowboy cats and astronaut crocodiles. It's pretty cool. And just like the first clip, there are some positive messages. Families come in many different forms. Love is love no matter with who, and straight people can be allies and be part of the LGBT community too. That being said though, I do understand why this clip is so controversial. First of all, it's cringy as fuck. Now I do understand that often things made for kids can seem cringy to adults, but a big part of the reason it's so cringy isn't even necessarily because of the childish aspects of it. A big part of the reason it's so cringy is just because of how it's full of left-wing indoctrination. For example, the BLM fist. It shows up not only once, but multiple times throughout the whole video. It very much comes across as an attempt at subliminal messaging, like they're trying to advocate for BLM without directly mentioning them. And the BLM fist just doesn't really belong here. And not just because you're endorsing an organization that destroys neighborhoods to children, but mostly because this doesn't really have anything to do with BLM, like at all. It almost gives the impression that your support of LGBT people isn't actually genuine, like you're just using them as an excuse to push BLM. Now, a lot of conservatives have saw this video and went full on tinfoil hat. They're trying to say that the left is trying to indoctrinate their children or convert them into being gay, which, I mean, if that were the case, then why would they mention that you can be a straight ally? I'm not one of those extreme tinfoil hat people trying to say this is indoctrination. I think the intentions here were mostly good. I think this was just an earnest attempt to try and make kids more aware of marginalized communities, so I believe the intentions here are good as opposed to nefarious. My main criticism, aside from the BLM fist of course, is that it just kind of seems out of place on Blue's Clues. I mean, if Nickelodeon wants to promote LGBT issues, then fine, they can do that, but I'm just not sure if Blue's Clues is the right show for it. Blue's Clues is aimed at young children, usually toddler age, and kids that young barely understand heterosexual relationships. Even if we take LGBT out of the equation for a moment, it would be like if Dora the Explorer had an episode about calculus. The subject material and the target audience just don't match. And that, aside from the BLM fist, is probably my biggest criticism of this second clip. In closing, I'm sure there were good intentions in both of these clips. I have nothing personal against Nina. She seems very passionate about what she does. Her concerns for the LGBT community seem completely genuine, and I wish her the best on her mission to support LGBT rights. So what did you guys think of these videos? Did you like them? Did you not like them? Would you change something about them to make them better? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, this has been Philosopos of Making Stupidity Play Dead. Until next time, take care.